Steffi,
Steve.
I'm very excited to talk our second annual top creator list.
Yes, what a year.
It's pretty good year to be a creator, I'll tell you that, or at least a top 50 creator.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've been hearing creator winter, but these folks are definitely staying very hot.
Yes, absolutely.
So I think let's kick off for everyone to understand how we built this list.
Yes.
We're very proud of it because it's not just cherry picking names.
Right.
This is a quantitative list. So
Yes.
let's start by going over how we pick our top creators.
Yes, yeah, and you were here to see both years of it, which is really exciting. So tell me a little bit how you did it last year versus this year, and if there were any big changes that you saw.
Gotcha. Well, in terms of the methodology is the same.
Yeah.
So we want to look at, this is Forbes, we really care about numbers. And the most important number is money, because at the end of the day, money talks, and
Yeah.
we're taking a snapshot of what the marketplace values, what businesses value. So we create this whole calculation for a top creator, but earnings from basically June to June of 2022 to 2023 is 50% of the weighting.
Yes.
The second part is a popularity contest, literally. We work with our partners at Influential,
Yes.
who are a creator marketing company,
Right.
and they have all this back-end data. So we look at engagement, which is how many people, what's the rate of people interacting. That might be they're liking your photo, they're commenting, they're sharing, they're not just viewing, but they're having some kind of interaction. And Influential says if you're getting 2% engagement, you're an all-star.
Yeah.
Some of these folks are in double digits.
Well beyond.
And continuing popularity, there's total reach.
Yeah.
So we take all of their followers across their platforms. A lot of folks have Instagram and TikTok.
Right.
It could be YouTube subscribers.
Yeah.
We mash that all together. And then finally, we have our famous Forbes entrepreneur score. And why don't you tell me about that?
Yeah, I mean, as someone this is my first year working on the list, I feel like the entrepreneur score was something that I was really excited to see, because it really is this 1 to 4 ranking of how well we think they have been able to take on the industry, go beyond what is the home platform for them, and go well and beyond into developing products and going on tours and releasing interesting things that are related to their brand, but really build out beyond just posting a video. So I thought that was really an interesting component, and that's weighted at 25%. So yeah, tell me a little bit about what you think is so interesting about the entrepreneur score as someone who's been here, for a while.
Cool. So yeah, this year we've changed. Last year it was from 1 to 3. Now it's
Yes.
1 to 4. A little differentiation.
Okay.
And I think it's a good way to start with a 4 is someone who's taken the digital platform, their followers, and have built companies, brands, services around that. A great example would be a Mr. Beast, who is not just he's turned his YouTube channel, he's selling snacks, he's selling Beast Burger with a whole fast food chain. The D'Amelio sisters, Charlie and Dixie, another great example of they not just have partnerships, they have their own line of clothing with larger companies. They have their own D'Amelio fund and brand.
Yeah.
They're wrapping that in together. They're investing in other brands. That's a great example of
Yes.
a 4. A 1 might be someone who just is popular. They're taking selfies or doing TikToks, and they're getting basically they're getting paid to feature products or services. That's bread and butter.
Yeah.
It's great money, but that's just you're just a pitch person.
Yes.
2 and 3 are somewhere in between.
Tell us about the in-between.
Okay, cool. Well, I would say you get a 2 if you've gone beyond just you talking to the camera. Maybe you have higher production content. Maybe you do characters and skits.
Yeah.
Maybe you've taken your show on the road literally, and you're building podcasts, or you're building worldwide tours.
Yeah.
Maybe a lot of our folks are jumping into Netflix. People like Addison Rae, for example, got famous lip syncing on TikTok. Now she has a record deal.
Yeah.
That would get you at least a 2, probably a 3.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think it's so fascinating to think about how much the industry has developed over the years, so much so that our methodology has included a new number in our entrepreneurial score. How do you feel like that has shifted from doing the list last year to now? How have you seen this industry expand in ways that are interesting to business?
It's amazing that it started. Everyone thought influencers a couple years ago were going to be a flash in the pan.
Yeah.
Just people famous for being famous. A very especially the young crowd. they are become so powerful, and now brands
Yeah.
and companies are starting to recognize that.
Yeah.
And they're getting bigger deals with very serious brands, and that's been fascinating to me.
Absolutely. I think there's lots of newcomers on this list who might not have been here last year, but are really just like rising straight to the top of the top 50.
Yeah.
Were there any names that stood out to you this year?
Well, I want to hear your opinion too. You're like you are a creator, reporter.
Yes.
You live and breathe internet culture. What are you seeing? You're much more with it than I am. I'm just crunching the numbers.
So the reverse Uno question. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's so fascinating for me, at least me, to see the people that have risen to the top, because these are people who I follow and I really like, and to see them and all the ventures they've been able to achieve this past year was really fascinating. I love to see Kai Cenat enter the list.
Oh, yes.
I know he wasn't on last year, but his engagement rate was also off the charts, just like 25%, which is an insane like number to have for people who are actively tapping into your content.
Well, his engagement's so powerful that he actually, in real life, caused an entire gathering. Tell me about that
Yes.
flash mob, or not even just a mob.
Yeah, absolutely. So as some of you might know, Kai Cenat was recently arrested in August for inciting a riot. So he promised a giveaway in Union Square, and so many fans flocked to the area. And when he was late, they began, causing havoc to the scene, and so police had to show up, and he was arrested in that moment. And I think his court appearance will be later this year, which I think is really interesting, because I'm sure for someone who is just posting content online, that impact in real life is not always you're able to wrap your head around it at times if you're just like streaming on Twitch. And so the human impact of that, I'm sure, can be really shocking to both creators and fans of how just the gravitas of it.
Yeah, they're called influencers,
Yeah.
and that just shows the real influence that some of these folks have. That he was able to, and I don't think he didn't do this on purpose.
Yeah.
It got out of control, but he said he's going to show up somewhere,
Yeah.
and he shut down like a big section of Manhattan.
Yes.
That's a jump from Twitch to the real world.
Yes.
We were able to feature Kabi Lame, who's the
Yes.
famous Italian creator on TikTok.
Yeah.
He's the most followed person on the planet in TikTok, 160 million followers, which is 3 times the population of Italy, where he lives. And that was fascinating, because he's now jumped to do major campaigns
Yes.
with brands. And what I was able to talk to the head of marketing at Allstate. I'm sorry. I was able to talk to the head of marketing at State Farm.
Okay.
And anyone who watches, football or sports on Sunday, you're peppered with State Farm commercials like crazy. They spend a ton of money.
Totally.
Last year, the Super Bowl was being held at State Farm Stadium, and they were saying that, you know what, we're going to be mentioned so many times at the Super Bowl, and we want to expand our reach to people that might not watch us on TV. And they did a deal with Kabi Lame,
Yeah.
and the idea was twofold, where they would shoot videos with him on TikTok,
Yeah.
but then they would air the commercials also, but not during the Super Bowl.
I see.
And so instead of spending whatever the number is, like $2 million for a 30-second spot, I think 115 million people watched the Super Bowl on TV last year. And the head of marketing at State Farm said that Kabi's one video, his hero video, the main video, got over 200 million views on TikTok.
Yeah.
So they showed that how powerful his reach is compared to, you think the Super Bowl is literally the Super Bowl of marketing too.
Absolutely.
And they got more impressions, and plus not just watching TV, they got their account, their TikTok account got followed a lot more. They got likes, they got shares, they got streams. So it's kind of showing the difference.
Yeah.
And it's not this or that. I think big companies can go, mainstream or traditional advertising, but they gotta throw money at these influencers, especially if they want to get the younger consumers.
Of course, yeah. That's what I think is so exciting about this list. It really shows the reality of the creator economy and how it really is, like you said, not just a flash in the pan. It's really something that's here to stay, and is as long as we are online, going to be a very big part of our lives. And someone like Kabi, comes from just an everyday background. He was like a factory worker, wasn't he?
Yes, he was before COVID. He got laid off in COVID, and he was outside of Turin in Italy, working in a factory that made car filters. And he went from car filters to TikTok filters, and he has 160 million followers, and he made more than $16 million over the last 12 months.
Which is a wild jump, and it really think is something that I don't know if you found fascinating to talk to him about, that sort of like democratized world of media and the people that can become famous on social media.
Yeah, it's amazing. And the crazy thing with Kabi is if for anyone out there hasn't seen it, he doesn't speak in his videos. We call him the $1 Million Mime. And the advantage of that is that I think the reason why he's so followed is that his comedy skits translate across any culture, any language, you don't need to speak the language to get his jokes. So that has been huge, where his reach is literally global, because as long as you can see him, you can understand what he's doing, and you can find him relatable.
Yeah, absolutely. Was there anyone else on the list that you were just really interested by in the business they've done over the past year?
It's a great question. It's been a lot. I was really fascinated with Rhett and Link.
Ooh,
so they were friends in first grade. They're older now. They're both former engineers, and now they've been doing YouTube for 12 years. They have a company, Mythical, and it went from basically a morning talk show to now an empire. And they have over 100 people. They have a production studio, like a Hollywood studio, but it's only for digital and basically YouTube. So they've multiple channels. They're doing Mythical summits now in real life, so they're getting thousands of fans. But the fact of they're building entertainment empires, and they're employing more than 100 people for their brands. Very interesting. On the other side, you have Matt Rife, the comedian, who was a journeyman comedian, doing the tour. Nothing crazy. And then he got famous on TikTok this year. A lot for his interacting with the crowd, with his his handling of hecklers, and people love that. And he has, I think, 17 million followers on TikTok, and he's translated that into this in the real world tour, where he's done a deal with Live Nation, and I think he's sold out over 700,000 seats for the next year. And that's taking that with no marketing, right? And he's a comedian, so all he needs is a microphone. Good margins on that. But the fact that he's taken his digital or virtual audience, and now, just like Kai Cenat, you mentioned, can fill up a park in New York City. He's filling up every comedy club months in advance with that platform. That's I love that kind of the leaping from digital to the real world.
Yeah. What I was really impressed by, too, was the creators who came on the list with a cause, something greater than themselves, like Drew Afualo, who really went viral on TikTok for calling out instances of prejudice, of misogyny, for fat phobia, and she's turned that into her entire brand, where she turned it into a podcast, she went on tour, she's releasing a book, totally based off of her literally tackling trolls online who were calling her all sorts of prejudiced names. And I think that's so fascinating that that can be something that you're so passionate about and becomes your identity online, and so many people resonate with you as someone who is defending women, and I love that sort of like cause-based influencing, where it's something so much bigger than yourself as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think the big difference is people who've grown up in the TV or movie generation, which is most of history in modern media. Everything had to be perfect. It was all the perfect life, or nothing, big studios, big production. People really take off on social media now, especially TikTok, when they're showing either behind the scenes or they're showing their flaws. Like one of our call-outs this year, Alex Earle, obviously lives a very glamorous life, but she's not afraid of, 1 minute she's showing her, her partying at a club or at this big gala, and the next minute she's talking about her skin breaking out and acne, or showing how messy her apartment is. So people love that sort of thing. And even, Matt Rife has gotten famous. I mean, for his jokes, but more importantly, it's the behind the scenes. It's him interacting with the audience. So it's definitely social media can be a very fake world, especially Instagram was always famous for like the human highlight reel.
I don't know what you're talking about. My Instagram is very real.
There we go. So
I've never lied once. On
perfect.
My
See, you're that one. You're the one person then.
Yeah, I'm special.
But there is a social media really rewards authenticity, especially I think especially TikTok, right? So TikTok wants shaky cameras, messy bedrooms. Bad hair. I don't know. You know.
I think that's what's so exciting about the creator industry is really like people who want to be authentic and don't want to hide behind so many like just so many like faces of like the face that we put on for any given situation for something as polished as like a film or a TV show.
Well, Steffi, I'm going to put you on the spot for a second because
Okay.
you are our creator economy reporter.
Yes.
You are in the trenches of the digital world.
Yes.
We talked about
That's true.
the drastic changes we've had over the last year of making
Yeah.
these two lists. What big surprises are going to come at us in 2024 in the creator economy?
Oh, that's tough to say. This industry moves so fast and it has so many legs that it's really difficult to ever really get a clear sense of what to forecast. But as someone who has a lot of brain worms from being online, I'm really personally excited to see micro influencers and people with really small followings who are able to secure a portfolio of deals based on marketing, big company marketing interest in these like people who aren't quite as like big name, but are really fascinated by like this sort of like local famous person, like the most famous person that you could know. So I know that's something that a lot of cosmetic companies and bigger and industries are really interested in, this idea of micro-influencing. So I'm definitely interested to see more of that come out. And
it's people that they geek out on one thing. They might be
Yes.
like the expert on
yeah,
studio microphones, and they might
Absolutely.
and they know that they recommend this microphone. Their followers are going to buy it because they are the most popular geek on the block.
totally hyper local. I'm also really excited to see lots of global trends. I know Lemonade and Xiaohongshu from the Chinese end of social media is really fascinating and is bleeding over into platforms like TikTok, where things from global platforms that maybe don't have as much impact here, like WhatsApp, WeChat, KakaoTalk, are starting to make their way over to American platforms and have that sort of like global I don't know, that intermingling.
So I'm not that cool. What are those? What are those are those platforms you mentioned? These networks that are going to
They're
come
apps.
over here?
They're social
They're
media
apps.
apps.
Okay.
Yes.
And what do they
There's-
do?
And there are all types of things. So I think like a Xiaohongshu is probably one of the biggest things. I know I see a lot of trends of it on TikTok where it's sort of like a Pinterest and Instagram combined.
Okay.
I know they just launched in the US as Lemonade. So I'm excited to see where they go and see what influencers are coming over from there, moving over to our platforms. I'm very excited to see how that works because I think there is still some just like you could get really popular on like a YouTube but not always make it over to a TikTok or vice versa. So it's the same thing but just like a bit more global. Yeah, I'm very interested to see that.
So I'm excited about the top creator list. I think everyone else is.
Yes.
So to see the full 50 where everyone lands, please go to Forbes.com and check it out. And for your daily creator economy news and trends, Steffi Sao has it all for you.
Thank you so much, Steve Bertoni. Thank you for having me.
Perfect.